Okay, all right, we're ready to start then. Good evening, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Licensing and Regulatory Committee of City Rock Council, Tuesday the 9th of August at 5:30 p.m. I have one item which I'm going to introduce after the minutes, and I'll explain why then. Apart from that, do we have any declarations of interest in items on the agenda, please? No? Okay, thank you. I should have mentioned apologies. Probably now is an appropriate point, but perhaps we could make sure it's on the agenda in future, please. Thank you. So we have apologies from several members. Councillors Tagorn, Barker, Mason, Waters, Wan, Hunter and Wells. Probably more apologies than those people who are on the other side who are here, but there we go. I'm not sure, have we got Councillor Pearson still on the agenda? I think he's no longer on this body. I'm not aware of any other peculiarities in the list of members. Okay. So we come to the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 7th of June 2022. After the minutes have been discussed, I'm going to ask Matt Boxall to speak briefly about the exec update, which is to do with the content of the minutes and the recommendation made in the minutes. Unless Sandra feels there's anything wrong in doing that.
No, Chair.
Right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. There's nothing substantive in there, but it's just to keep members up to date.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. In which case, we have the minutes of the last meeting on the 7th of June to approve, agree and sign. And I've got a couple of questions myself, but I'll ask members first if they have any questions. I'm aware of at least one member who has a question or two. Councillor Melly.
Thank you, Chair. I think just typos really. At the start, so page 1, in the record of declarations of interest, I think maybe something's just been copied across from a past meeting or something. It says that I declared an interest in an agenda item that actually was from a previous meeting. And I think the paragraph's just the wrong way around. It says who declared an interest and then says members are invited to declare an interest. So I think it just needs swapping.
Sorry, I'm slightly confused. Where you've got on page 1?
Page 1, the bottom 2 paragraphs,
Yes.
where there's the record of who declared interests.
So we take basically that second sentence in there needs to be removed. Is that what you're saying?
The sentence that says that I declared an interest needs to be removed, and then I think the 2 paragraphs just need to be swapped around.
Right, okay.
And then another thing, which again I think is just a typo, on page 5, the 3rd bullet point, kind of in the middle of the page, that starts the senior solicitor advised. Right in the middle of that paragraph where it says unmet demand was met, there was significant unmet demand. I think it was meant to be there was no significant unmet demand.
That's what I was going to ask about myself.
And then at the end of that paragraph, that gives the number of 80, talks about bringing the supply down to number of licenses down to 80. I don't know where that number's come from, or what I can't remember from the meeting what the relevance of that number was. Can't remember for the record what it was we were discussing.
Unfortunately, I can't help you there.
I suspect it's supposed to be 180 rather than 80, but even then I can't remember what that information was for.
Yep, and I'm afraid I was out of the building at that point.
So I think maybe we just need to go back and watch the webcast and just remember what the information was that officers were providing us with.
Okay.
But it wasn't officer, it was the author of the survey.
Okay. Can I ask if anybody else has got any questions on the minutes or points to raise? Okay, in which case, can I ask Sandra if the comment that what the senior solicitor advised, blah, 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 that the number of licenses issued, if members were satisfied that the unmet demand was met, so that there was significant unmet demand. That seems slightly at cross purposes. Yeah, I think that should, it's what should be there as well.
Yes, Chair, I think that's right. I think it should say the solicitor advised that there could only be a quantity restriction in number of licenses issued if members were satisfied that there was no significant unmet demand.
And that's the purpose of the issue of those additional licenses.
That's what I advised that we do.
Well, short of checking it on the website here and now, I think it was if members were satisfied that there was no significant unmet demand. So that the words on the third line of that. So from the unmet demand was met so that there was. It comes out, the unmet demand was met so that those come out, and the sentence, that middle bit of the sentence reads, if members were satisfied that there was no significant unmet demand.
Yes, I think.
Oh, that's what I thought you'd said.
Yes, I did. I remember.
Yeah.
I do remember this.
Yeah. Okay. In which case, okay. In which case, the members happy with that adjustment to the minutes, and the question of the number of licenses, which I think should have been 180. We may need to check that against the webcast, but that could be a second change at a subsequent meeting if needed. Okay. In which case, any other questions about the minutes? With that one question that's now been answered, I think I'm happy with them. Is everybody else happy with them? Okay. In which case, I'll approve them myself and sign them. Have you somebody got a copy? Okay. All right. In which case, they will be signed as soon as possible after this meeting. Okay. We don't, I think, have any public participation registered speakers. Okay, so that takes us straight on then. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was indeed. So inserting between minutes and public participation, Matt is going to give us a brief update about the exec meeting, which followed the previous meeting of this committee.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It will be brief. Yeah, so as per your recommendation at the last committee, the report duly went to executive, where the executive were asked to consider one of the two aspects, because under our policy, prior to there being new licenses issued, the executive shall consider the type of vehicle that they are issued to. So it was that particular aspect which wasn't a contentious issue here. It was unanimously put through, and the executive agreed with your recommendation that it should be black, wheelchair accessible, and electric or plug-in electric vehicles, precisely as per your recommendation. This now all goes to council meeting, and if my memory serves me rightly, the next council I think is in October. It will go there, where all councillors will consider both the type of vehicle that should be licensed and reconsider the number of licenses that should be issued to meet that unmet demand.
Thank you. Just a question for clarity. So the number of licenses to be released, that goes straight to full council without needing to go to executive, and it's just the type of vehicle that goes to executive.
Yeah, that's right. The policy says that the type of vehicle shall be considered by executive before being implemented. So that's why we took it to executive. Yeah.
So I know we just said we approved minutes, but if I can go back to something in the minutes, the in the minutes, what it says was resolved was that it'd be recommended to the executive to make available 9 new Hackney carriage vehicle licenses. Is that what we resolved? But something slightly different happened, or did we resolve for it to go to council rather than executive?
Shall I help there? Yes, you resolved that, but actually the policy only says that the type of vehicle shall be approved by executive, not the number. The number goes to council to be
All
determined.
right, cool. So yeah, we should have resolved to recommend to council. All right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Malley. That was helpful regarding the intricacies of this. Sorry? Right, okay. Well, in that case, on the basis that we've approved the minutes, we've had no public participation, that Boxall has spoken of the progress of the outcome of the meeting to recommend to exec and what happened there. Then we'll move on then to agenda item 4, which is the renewal of a sex establishment licence for the adult shop at 70B Gillygate, York, under the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1982, Schedule 3, as amended by the Policing and Crime Act 2009. Do you want to speak to this, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, this is basically just a straightforward renewal of a sex establishment licence for a sex shop. This premises can currently operate Monday to Saturday, 10 AM until 8 PM, and on a Sunday, 12 noon until 5 PM. The reason that the hours differ on a Sunday to those within our sex establishment policy is because when this licence was first granted many years ago, it was taken into consideration that there is a church on Gillygate, and that church does services in the morning and on an evening. A copy of the application for renewal can be found at Annex 1 of the report, and a copy of the current licence can be found at Annex 2. The standard conditions for a sex shop can be found at Annex 3. Conditions on page 27, conditions 25 and 26, make reference to him and her. I know that when we determined the application for the sexual entertainment venue, members at that time did agree to a changing of the wording of that conditions that mentioned him or her. That may be something that members want to take into consideration when determining the application today. I can confirm that the consultation process was carried out by the applicant correctly, and that there are no objections before you today. There are no mandatory grounds to refuse this application. Members need to consider the discretionary grounds, which can be found on pages 11 and 12 when determining the application. And your options are grant the renewal of the licence, grant the renewal of the licence with modified additional conditions imposed by this committee, or refuse the application for renewal on one of the mandatory or one or more of the discretionary grounds. That's just a very brief overview, Chair.
Thank you, Leslie. I pass this shop on quite frequently on my way into and out of town, and on my way to and from a nearby academic establishment. And what I can say in my experience of passing it is that I've never noticed any queues, any whatever. It has been, I would say, in my experience, barely noticeable to passers-by. Other members may have other experience and may wish to discuss that or consider the discretionary grounds for refusal. So I'm going to throw it open to the floor. From my point of view, I'll vote in due course when we make a decision. Members, over to you.
I'll move option 1. Grant the licence as requested.
Councillor Melling.
Has there been any change in circumstances or new information about the suitability of the licensee?
No, there hasn't.
In that case, can
Changes.
I propose option 2, renew the license with modified conditions and just change any references to him/her to either them or the licensee?
Councillor Look.
I will second councillor Mellie's option if that's where she is around the language being used within the license. It is important. I was just trying to remember how many times I have renewed this license because it's been in Guildhall Ward forever almost. And yes, I don't think there have ever been any. There've been no complaints about it from local residents. And actually, it is quite a residential street, Gillygate. It's surprising how many people do live down Gillygate. And there have never been any issues raised about it since it's been established. I see no grounds for refusing it. So with Councillor Mellie's linguistic alterations, I'm happy to approve it.
Sorry, can I ask? Chair, I haven't quite got my head around this. We're not going for option 1. That's been proposed. Well, I was sort of waiting to see what's the effect of option 2. I mean, I haven't quite got my head around that yet. Where are the modified and additional conditions?
Well, on page, was it 26?
On page 27, if you go to conditions 25 and 26, they both have a reference to him/her, and the modification would be changing it to them.
Okay, fine. I mean, I think the term is it's semantics. I've no problem.
That's as good a word as any. I use linguistic, but semantic is.
I can see I was going to say relentless, but certainly the logic of what Councillor Mellie's proposing there. And I think Councillor Orwell's probably happy with that on that basis. Is everybody happy with that proposal? Do we wish to vote on it? No. Okay, please show if you wish to approve it. Any against? Oh, no, one. That's approved unanimously. Well done. Okay, so with that, we can cope with the technicalities there, can't we, Leslie and Angela? So with that brings us to the end of the ordinary items of business. There's no urgent business. It was going to be the minutes to the executive, but that was dealt with in a more subtle way. So thank you all for attending, and I think we may not be having a meeting in September, apart from hearings. Angela, any?
Yeah, there aren't any reports to be considered at that moment.
It looks as if we will not be having a meeting in September. So in that case, I'll see you whenever the next meeting is. And who knows, I might even have chaired a hearing by that time.